Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show with certified financial fiduciary Tim Wood.
Let's sit down and make an actual plan, and we have definitely got to factor in that retirement danger zone. I wish to God someone had sat down and done that with my dad. We wish we would have known about these things.
Tim is a retirement and income planning expert, best-selling author, and the founder of SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Tim focuses on wealth management, retirement income, tax and long-term care planning, and so much more.
Today is your opportunity to build the tomorrow you want. You've got an 87% chance of success. Well, son, that's a 13% chance of failure.
And now, the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood.
And we welcome you into this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. Alongside Tim Wood, the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name's Kevin McAlpin. Tim and I hope you're having a great day. We thank you for being with us on the show. And man, we got a lot to get to on the program here today. But first things first, we do say hello to the star of the show, the man of the hour, my good buddy, Mr. Tim Wood. Tim, it's a pleasure as always, sir.
Absolutely. Hope everyone out there is doing well. Hope you're doing well, Kevin, and looking forward to today's show.
I wanted to dive into a topic that I know we haven't really covered a lot on this show, and it's the high home prices and interest rates we have seen over the last 3, 4, 5 years, really pushing ownership out of reach for many millennials. Matter of fact, one of those folks is the mother of 5. Her name is Jenny Rangel out of Chandler, Arizona, and she recently told CBS Sunday Morning she's fallen into a category she calls forever renter.
We pay about $3,000 in rent. This home I'm renting goes for $600,000. We can't afford a $600,000 home, with our income, maybe $300,000.
And what would that get you around here?
It's not going to be a lot.
All right. So, Tim, I bring that up because many retirees face a completely different issue. Instead of worrying if they can buy, they're kind of asking the reverse question. Should I stay put, downsize, or maybe even rent? So when someone comes to you with a situation like this, how do you sort of help them walk through that process of what's best for their unique situation?
It's always different. I mean, and that's, kind of like what you said, is that every situation is completely unique. And yeah, there are a lot of people that want to downsize, but because property is so expensive these days, to be honest with you, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a chunk from your current house because the next house is going to cost so much. Mm-hmm. People sometimes think, I'm going to sell this nice big house and I'm going to have hundreds of thousands left over because we're going to downsize. Not necessarily these days. Right. So, yeah, we have to sit down and really look at a lot of different things. I mean, it has completely changed just in a lot of ways. The way that retirement planning itself has completely changed over, say, the last 25 years. So downsizing doesn't always mean lower costs anymore. I know it used to, but not necessarily. Higher home prices, mortgage rates, and mortgage rates make a big difference. Going from where we were at 2, 3, 4% to where we are now at 5, 6, 7, 8%, that is a huge difference in payments. Right. I have got a lot of clients that are just like Jenny, and they rent. Believe it or not, I've got a lot of retirees that are renting because they don't want to mess with it. Right. Plus, then if you're renting, if something goes wrong, all you got to do is call the landlord and they got to fix the AC or they got to fix the roof or they got to fix the leak or whatever it is. So it really is something that you've got to look at each individual person. Another thing I say is staying put can make a lot of financial sense, even if the house is too big, if your house is paid off. Because then you're not having to make those payments. Now all you got to worry about is taxes, basically, and your housing's taken care of. Mm-hmm. And again, depending on the situation, I had one lady that had a whole bunch of property, sold off a bunch of the property and kept the house. Well, that bunch of a property gave her a big chunk of change, but she kept the house because it was paid for. So again, looking at each individual situation, but if a house is paid for, retirees who own their homes outright may avoid taking on new debt just by staying where they are. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no reason to move in some cases. So that's something to keep in mind. But renting does offer a lot of flexibility. I mean, like I said, I've got more and more clients that maybe even if they could afford a home, they're just renting because I don't know if this is going to be our forever home. we're downsizing right now. We don't know exactly, do we want to move into, there are some really, really, really nice retirement communities where they're going to take care of your laundry. Mm-hmm. They're going to take care of your meals, that you're going to be in with people that may have the same likes and interests as you. Where my mom lives, if she wants to get her hair done, well, she walks out the door to the right. If she wants to go to church on Sunday, she walks out the door to the left. If she wants to go to dinner, she walks out the door and turns to the left and goes down the hall. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
If the weather's really bad, she literally can do everything she needs from right inside the facility. So renting offers that flexibility that you're not locking into another home, and now you've got all of those headaches. And now if you decide that's not where you want to be, now you got to get the house fixed up. You got to get it listed with a real estate agent. You got to sell it. You got to find where you're going. If you're renting, you just at the end of your term say, we're out, and you leave and go somewhere else. So it does offer a lot of flexibility. Lastly, I'd say, retirement is all, in my opinion, about lifestyle. It's not always, it is about money, but it's more about lifestyle. Yeah. So there are some people, again, that just want that lifestyle of being a renter. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a house. There's some really nice condos you can rent. And again, the retirement communities you can get into are technically rentals. It's all about lifestyle, and that's one of the things I talk to clients about. What do you want your lifestyle to be? Now, do I have clients that want to still be in their home? Yes. Great. Let's plan for that. Do I have some that still say they want to downsize? Yes. But that's not as easy as it used to be, not as straightforward as it used to be, not with mortgage rates, not with the price of property, not with all of these things. So it really is an individual. I know y'all hear me say that, and y'all probably get tired of me saying that every single week, that it's an individual case by case basis. The whole downsizing and getting into where you want to live, it's really changed dramatically, because years ago, everyone just stayed in their house until they passed. Mm. That's not the case anymore. It is for some, and if that's what you want to do, great, let's plan for that. But I wouldn't even necessarily say that's so much the norm anymore. So let's see what you want to do as far as your housing. And do you want to stay where you are? Is your house paid for? Do you want to rent? Do you want to look at one of these communities? What do you want to do? What's going to make you the happiest in retirement based on your personality and based on what you want your lifestyle to be?
So much has changed over the years, and there are so many big decisions you're going to have to make as you get closer and closer to retirement. Last thing you want to do is try to DIY your way or Google or YouTube your way through retirement. You want to sit down with Tim and his team? There's no cost. There's no obligation. 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233, or online anytime. It's safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com.
It's now time for our Safe Money Story of the Week. Visit safemoneystories.com to view more.
For this week's Safe Money Story of the Week, since we were just talking about housing, I actually want to talk about a client that came in. It's been, was the end of last year that this lady came in. Her and her husband had their house paid off, and they were planning on living there the rest of their days. And that's great. Hallelujah. But unfortunately, out of the blue, her husband had a heart attack and passed away, just literally out of nowhere. So she came and sat down with me, and, what do we want to do and how do we want to do it? Well, she said, we had always planned on staying in that house, but now it's almost like I'm living with a ghost, because he's not there, but he is there. And every time, he's around every corner, and I see him all the time. And I can only imagine. I was in tears listening to her as she was in tears. It was not a good situation. But basically what we had to do was figure out, do you still want to live in that house? Again, talking about lifestyle. What do you want your lifestyle to be? Do you still want to live in that house, or would you prefer to be in a community, kind of like what I was talking about, where you can be around others, where you can be supported, where if you ever have some sort of a medical issue, there's someone right up the hall. If you want to go to church, there it is right up the hall. You want to go get your hair done, it's over here, And after really looking at the whole situation, even though when she came in, her plan was, I'm going to stay in the house. But after a bunch of tears and, half a box of Kleenex, we kind of got to the thing where she said, I don't know if I can live the rest of my years in that house without him. Mm-hmm. That was our home. He's gone. Maybe it would be better. And there's someone here locally that I actually hooked her up with, and he works for an outside company, but he works with all of the different communities and can help, and he actually took her around and showed her all the different communities and found somewhere that she really wanted to move in. So then what's next? Well, then you got to have your family come in and help you get the house ready. And she did, and put the house up for sale. And then what we did was we took the proceeds from that house and we moved that into a growth plan. And then we used the growth out of that growth plan and what she could withdraw from that. We used that plus her Social Security to help pay for her rent in the retirement community. So everything was taken care of, and it was still taken care of from the home. She just wasn't living there anymore. She was somewhere where she was much more comfortable, had much more fellowship with other people, was surrounded. She called me, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. She called me and she said, I'm actually gotten to the point where I really enjoy it because every night we get together and play cards in this common area. And I've got this whole group of ladies that they've also lost their husbands. And we sit down and play cards and just kind of share our hearts and, enjoy. And we do that every single night. We meet at 7:30 and we're there till 9:30 or 10 every night. I think that sounds fantastic. How much better is that than her just sitting at home crying every night or whatever? Again, it's all about lifestyle. It's all about what you want. What I did again with her, help her sit down and figure out what she wanted to do and what's going to be the best way to afford this community that you want to get into. And that's what we did. That's what it's all about. It's all about an individual figuring out what's going to be best for them. That was what was best for her. Helped her, figure out the whole plan. She got her property sold. We then moved those assets along with some others, because her and her husband did have some other assets, put them into a pretty substantial growth plan where she's getting some really good growth and she can pull that growth out of there. That plus the Social Security pays for everything that she needs. Obviously still grieving and will be the rest of her life, but she knows now that she's in a better situation, and she left in almost happy tears, whereas she came in sad tears.
Yeah. Tim Wood and his team at Safe Money Retirement, they're a phone call away. And folks, if you want to get on his calendar, there's no cost, there's no obligation. And here's what we're going to do for our first 5 callers to schedule that time to meet with Tim. Start putting that plan in place for your retirement. He's also going to throw in a complimentary copy of his book. It's called Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. So if you'd like to learn more, you'll want to get on his calendar today, folks. Again, the number 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233 or online at safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. All right, when Tim and I return, we're going to try to bust some long-term care myths. That, plus we'll hear from a comedy legend as we continue with this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show right after this.
Hey, it's Glenn Beck. Do you still have all of your retirement money at risk in the market? Most know that I don't do that. It's way too dangerous, in my opinion, at least. The fact the market could fall off a cliff tomorrow, yet many don't have an expert you can trust. Let me tell you about Tim Wood. Now, he's the owner of Safe Money Retirement. That's a certified financial fiduciary and a best-selling author. I met Tim personally, and I can tell you that he and his team can help you plan your own guaranteed lifetime income streams to cover you and your spouse and grow your money while protecting it from a market crash. Go to safemoneyretirement.com/Beck or call 800-913-SAFE to schedule a no-obligation free 15-minute discovery call with Tim. You know I just don't trust anyone, and so do your own homework with Tim at safemoneyretirement.com/Beck and book your free discovery call with Tim online or call 800-913-SAFE and get started today.
It is the Safe Money Retirement Show, and we're glad to have you with us. Alongside Tim Wood, he's the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. I'm Kevin McAlpin. Hope you're having a great day, a great weekend, and as always, we're so glad to have you with us here on the show. So, Tim, I mentioned it before the break. We return. We're going to bust some long-term care myths. And I bring it up because I recently saw an article that challenges 3 of those myths. I want to run these by you and get your thoughts. The first one I saw was long-term care means a nursing home. Number 2, you will need long-term care insurance. And number 3, probably my favorite on the list, this will never happen to me. So, Tim, how do you react when you hear some of these assumptions from your clients? I think about the word assumptions. I think about what my dad used to say. You know what happens when you assume. What are your thoughts when you hear these 3 bullet points?
That's right. To you and me.
That's right. That's right.
Yep. Well, first of all, long-term care means a nursing home? Absolutely not. Now, could it? Yes, it could. It could. But my dad was in long-term care and he was never in a nursing home. So it absolutely does not mean a nursing home. It's much broader than most people think. It's not just limited to nursing homes. It can include at-home help. You know, there are a lot of the plans that I do that are income plans or growth plans that have a long-term care benefit built into them, and you can get that benefit with at-home care. You're not having to go into, it's what's called being institutionalized, even though it's that word makes you think you're going into, you know, like a mental institution. They just call it that for people that are going into a long-term care facility. They call that being institutionalized. Now, there are some plans that you have to go into a facility, but more and more you don't. So at-home care is absolutely something. There's also assisted living facilities. So that's another option. And then there's also adult daycare where you're just dropping someone off for a certain period of time. There are a lot of different options with long-term care. It does not just mean a nursing home, and people need to understand all of those different options. And sitting down with someone can help you understand the differences and what you may actually need for your specific situation. Not every advisor can do that, but those of us that are experienced in retirement planning, guess what? We've done it over and over and over. And by asking you a few questions, I probably can help steer you in the right direction. And if not, at least get you with a person that can help. Because I know the director of multiple of these facilities in my area. And if you're in a different area, I guarantee you I can make a call or two and get you to the right person. So that's not a problem. Number 2. You need long-term care insurance. Rarely do you need long-term care insurance unless you've had it for years and years and years. If you have, great. But if you don't have it and you think, oh, I need to do something for long-term care, and you're already in your 60s, 70s, 80s, getting long-term care insurance is that's not it. It's going to be way too expensive if you can even get it. And if you do, it's going, like astronomically expensive. And then also it continues to get more expensive every year. That's one of the biggest complaints that I have heard from people over the years about long-term care insurance. Man, when I was in my 40s, 50s, 60s, it really wasn't bad. But now that I'm in my 80s, my gosh, look at what my monthly payment is. Well, why do you think it keeps going up? Because they know if they keep making it more and more and more expensive, sooner or later, you're going to cancel it. And if you've canceled it and you've paid for 20 years, well, guess what? They just said, thank you very much, sir, ma'am. Appreciate that. There are a lot of other options. There are a lot of plans out there. There are IRA plans. There are all kinds of things with long-term care benefits that's not long-term care insurance. So there are a lot of different options. Insurance, I'm not going to say it's not the right answer, but I will tell you it's very rare that I write a long-term care policy. Very rare, because there are so many other options out there that are better than a regular long-term care insurance, whether it's a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider, whether it's an annuity with a long-term care rider. There's all kinds of different long-term care options that aren't long-term care insurance. And in a lot of cases, some of these have absolutely zero qualification, or the qualifications are very minimal. So long-term care insurance absolutely is not the only option. You need to look at your specific situation, you need to look at your family history, you need to look at what you're worried about. Let's make a plan. But the last one, the whole thing that this will never happen to me. I hear it all the time. Literally, almost daily, I have at least one client say, oh, I'm not going to need long-term care. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
The statistics were just done in 2025. These are not ancient statistics. The statistics show over 70%, 70, that's more than 2 out of 3 people will need long-term care at some point in their life. Wow. 70%.
It's a big number.
Now, you're going to roll the dice that that's not you. That's an awful big gamble.
Yeah.
Because do you know how expensive long-term care can be? I mean, we're talking it can be $10,000 or more a month.
Oof.
Are you prepared for that? What's your contingency plan? What are you going to do? If you've got $300,000 saved up for retirement, well, that can feel awfully good. But then if you have to start dropping $10,000 a month on long-term care for someone, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm only going to make it 2.5 years. What are you going to do? Yeah. You need to have a plan in place, and you need to know that. I mean, honest to God, I would say denial is probably the most costly myth out there. You know, it's not going to happen to me. Really? Well, I hope you're right. And that's what I tell clients. I sure hope you're right. You know, I mean, really, I pray that you are right. But what if you're not? You know, it kind of goes back to just retirement planning in general. You could go back to what they were saying back in the 1980s, just to take out 4% and you should be fine. Okay, well, in theory, that might work, you know, and running a Monte Carlo simulation, that might get you 93% success. But guess what that also gets you? 7% failure.
Yeah.
That's not good enough for me. That's not what Safe Money Retirement LLC is built on. We're built on guarantees, and we're built on things you can count on. So let's make a plan, and let's know what that plan's going to be for long-term care, because just denying it and saying, oh, that's never going to happen to me, man, that's an awfully big risk, and I see clients take it every single day.
Well, we know that these types of long-term care situations, they can sneak up on you in a hurry, right? We know that the older we get, boy, it feels like things just kind of come out of the blue at times. The reason I bring that up is it kind of ties in to our next topic on the show here today. Bill Murray, a guy who I know is very, very popular with a lot of folks our age. We grew up on a lot of his movies. Well, he's turning 76 this year. And recently we had a chance to sit down with Bill Murray at his annual golf outing in St. Augustine, and he admitted, well, he's losing patience with certain personal chores like shaving.
At a certain point, shaving becomes work, and your face is not as easy to shave as it once was. I used to be able to do it in the shower blindfolded, and now I come out of the shower and I look like a team of blind people tried to shave me.
And again, it's a reminder, whether it's long-term care or whether it's just age, getting older can sneak up on all of us, right? Stuff you never thought about suddenly takes more effort, like shaving for Mr. Murray. So the reason I bring that up, Tim, a lot of folks assume they'll just figure out retirement later. They'll figure out long-term care later. What's the big risk of waiting until things really get harder or feel like more of an emergency type situation?
What you just said, I mean, it kind of answers itself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't make a plan, failure to plan is planning to fail. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that if you have not already made a plan, then guess what? You better be prepared, son, because it's coming. Like you just said, life can sneak up on us quickly. It always does. And making sure that you're prepared for anything, no matter what it is, be it long-term care, be it, having to retire early, be it needing to get out of a house and into a retirement community. There's a whole list of things, but making sure that you're ready. And that's one of the things that I cover with clients when we're sitting in a fact finder. What are you going to do about A, B, C, D? Well, what's the plan? What are y'all going to do? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, let's know. Let's figure it out. What's the plan? That's literally all day, every day. I am helping people make a plan. Because, things are different. I mean, sometimes you pull your back getting out of bed when you're, in your 50s, 60s, 70s. That didn't happen when you were in your 30s. When you were in your 30s, you could bounce out of bed and be out the door in, 45 seconds, it seems like.
Right.
Now it's 45 seconds just to sit up and get your head straight. You know what I mean? Things are just different. So you need to make sure you've got a plan. And the last thing that I want to mention really quick about making the plan is, a lot of people also need to make sure they've got a plan and need to have a plan for what happens if you have some sort of a dementia issue, because that's getting more and more and more prevalent. Unfortunately, that's what wound up taking my dad earlier this year is dementia. And, there got to a point where he couldn't do anything financially anymore. Now, luckily, I already had the durable power of attorney, so I already could do all of the things for him because we made a plan. Where would we have been if we had not done that? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, if it got to the point where he was not really coherent, then how are we going to sit? I mean, I'm assuming it probably still could be done, but it would have been a whole lot harder than making that plan while he was still there and saying, hey, here's a piece of paper with Tim's signature, and if something ever happens, Tim can handle it. Mm-hmm. Make a plan. We need to make a plan for all these eventualities. Long-term care is one of them. Dementia is one of them. When do you want to do social? How do you want to do housing? There's a bunch of things, and it all works together to make sure that you're having a good retirement.
And that all starts with one phone call to Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement. If you'd like to learn more, you'll want to get on his calendar today. There's no cost, there's no obligation. And our first 5 callers to schedule that appointment with Tim and his team, he's also going to throw in a complimentary copy of his book. It's also called Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. You want to learn more? You want to start the conversation today? 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233 or online anytime at safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. So, Tim, we are very quickly running out of time on the show this week. And before we do, sir, the floor is all yours for the final word.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Another great show. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Really 2 big focuses today. We started talking about housing and renting versus owning and all those different kinds of things. It really is a personal choice. Where do you want to live? What's going to make the most sense? And then planning that, with the rest of your retirement plan moving forward. And that kind of transitioned into what we talked about with long-term care. And then even with dementia care, which is part of long-term care, figuring out where you're going to be there. In my opinion, and again, because I've got personal family experience with it, and so does my wife, making sure that you've got a plan. Y'all hear me beat that dead horse every single week. Have a plan. Now, everyone's plan's going to be different. Your plan's not going to be the same as mine. It's not going to be the same as Kevin's. Isn't going to be the same as anybody else listening. You need to have your own plan. You need to sit down with a certified financial fiduciary that's totally independent that can help you make your own plan. Long-term care, 70% of people are going to need it. Now, you may be listening saying, well, that's not me. I sure hope you're right. But you've got a 7 in 10 chance that you're wrong. So you need to make sure you've got a plan. Well, dementia is becoming more and more a thing. Over 50% of people, from a statistic that I got from the Alzheimer's Association I have right here on my desk, have some form of dementia by the time they're past these days. What's your plan? What's your plan for housing? Let's sit down and make sure you've got a solid plan so you can have your own safe money retirement.
The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Obviously, by contacting us now, you are only taking the first step towards protecting your retirement. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified, licensed insurance professional. It is important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Interest and other guarantees in annuity contracts are subject to the claims-paying ability of the insurance carrier that issued the contract. The tax consequences of annuity income should be considered with the help of a licensed tax professional. Rates and returns mentioned on this program may vary based on state availability and are subject to change without notice.